Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing with you my basic minimal homeschool supplies that I use on a regular daily basis. So if you're excited to hear more about that, then hit that thumbs up button and stay tuned. So for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Shareya Maurice and I'm a homeschooling mama of 3 kiddos, ages 1, 3, and 5, and I like sharing videos on how you can simplify your homeschool to save you time, money, and your sanity. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, then subscribe and turn on the little bell icon so that you can be notified of my latest videos. And if you'd like to get a behind the scenes look at our homeschool, you can follow us over on Instagram at the Shareya Maurice. Now, like I said, today I'm sharing with you the minimal homeschool supplies that you need or that I use on a regular basis. And so I've noticed that in today's consumerist economy, we just feel like we have to get all of the things in order to be successful homeschoolers. But the reality is that we don't actually need all of the supplies and the tools and the resources available to us. While they're all great, they are not absolutely necessary to be successful at homeschooling. So today I just wanted to share with you the absolute minimum that you need. And I don't want to say like a blanket statement, you need these things, because it's really subjective to the individual and your family's needs. And so I'm sharing what we use on a regular basis as like a guideline for you to follow if you want on the supplies that we use, in case you have absolutely no idea what you should get and what might not be beneficial for you or that you really need. Like, what do you really need to homeschool, right? So I'm gonna share with you first just the things that we use multiple times a day on a daily basis. And those are things like crayons, colored pencils, markers, stick glue, watercolors, washable tempera paint, pencil sharpener, paper, paintbrushes, watercolor paper, scissors, pencils, pens, and eraser caps. And y'all, that's it. That's the stuff that we use multiple times a day on a daily basis for our homeschool needs. And we get along just fine with that alone. Now, I'm going to also include some other things, like I call these our supplemental items. We use these on a daily basis, but I don't believe that they're absolutely necessary to homeschool well. So here's what I mean. For example, I put whiteboard and dry erase, wet erase markers on our vis-a-vis. We don't absolutely need those, but they do come in handy. I mean, I could just use a piece of paper and a pencil to write down or demonstrate to my child whatever it is I'm trying to teach him. But a whiteboard makes it a little easier to erase things, and it makes it a little easier. So not absolutely necessary, but something we do use daily. Another thing is ABC magnets. So absolutely not necessary. You don't need ABC magnets in order to teach your kids how to read or how to spell. However, it does come in handy, it's helpful, and they enjoy being able to manipulate the letters and come up with, funny words or sounds on their own. So absolutely not necessary, but helpful, and we use that on a daily basis. The other things are a demonstration clock and an abacus and a craft bucket. So those three things, definitely not necessary. A clock will work just fine. I did share in my homeschool haul whenever I bought the clock that the book that we're using to teach the clock, it's in our Math Lessons for Living Education book. It does come with a clock that you can put together with paper and little brad for the arrows to turn it around. But for me, I just wanted to be able to show my son how the hour hand moves at the same time that the minute hand moves around the clock. And it was difficult to show him that with the paper clock that we could make. So I chose to invest in a demonstration clock, and it will last for my next 2 children that I teach. So that's what works for us. And then the abacus, we used dried beans for our math manipulatives, but I just got tired of, counting out the beans or them slipping on the table and then falling for who knows where on the floor below. And so it was just easier for us to have an abacus we can count and everything stays in one place and it slides easily on the bar and we don't have to worry about it. So I chose to invest in an Abacus for that. Absolutely not necessary, and we got along just fine, generally speaking, without it, but you choose your battles and what you want to deal with, right? I didn't want to have to go fishing for dried beans on the floor. That's just me. And then the last thing was a craft bucket. I got a already a pre-filled bucket of craft supplies from Aldi for $5 last year or 2 years ago. And it's lasted us this whole time. Like it's still full. I actually went through it recently and pared down a lot of the stuff because we didn't actually use everything in there. So there's like glitter glue and those pipe cleaners and those little puff balls and just all sorts of craft supply stuff, googly eyes. And so I'm not a big crafts person and I don't like to deal with the mess that it comes with. I'm working on doing a better job at saying yes to when they want to make crafts, but right now that's just not something that I enjoy doing or overseeing with my children. So I'm working on that. But this craft bucket was perfect because whatever fits in the craft bucket is what we have. And so they have to make do with what we've got. And that has lasted us a while. So maybe your kids are super artsy and would, fly through the craft supplies and you might have to get it more regularly, or you can invest in a bigger bucket. But really, you don't need craft supplies. I mean, if you have glue, paper, scissors, and markers or crayons or things like that, your kids can get creative and create whatever they want with just those few minimal supplies. So I want to encourage you to remember that less is more when it comes to arts and crafts supplies. The less that they have to work with, the more creative they have to get. And that's what we want to foster in them, is creativity. And if they have all of these materials and supplies and things, they can first of all get overwhelmed with what it is they're going to do, how they're going to use it to create what they want. And then they're going to create a big, huge mess that they're not going to be excited about cleaning up, and you're not going to be excited about cleaning up. So if you have least amount of supplies that you possibly can, they have to get creative with what they've got and really think about how they're going to utilize those materials. And also it helps them to conserve or to use up their materials in as many ways as they possibly can before it's completely done with. Because if they think of these materials as just, oh, they will continue to be replaced and we'll get more and more, then they can just make these, creations that waste a lot of material. So less is more when it comes to arts and craft supplies, okay? Last thing I wanted to share with y'all is the minimal teacher supplies. So these are the things that I use daily, and I consider these like essential must-have items if you're homeschooling. And honestly, there's not a lot here. The first one is, I think it goes without saying, a printer. If you're a homeschooling mama, you have got to have a printer. We just print, we print stuff, okay? And especially if you are, doing your own handwriting program like I'm doing. I shared in another video, you can watch that. I print off daily copy worksheets. And so I have to have paper, I have to have ink, and I have to have a printer in order to do all of that. So you need a good printer. Now, some would say that you need a printer that has scanning and copying and all of that stuff. Honestly, I haven't found that to be necessary. That's just me and what works for us. We got this small HP printer. It's like the HP Tango or something. I'll link it down below for you if you're interested in it. But it doesn't do scanning and it doesn't do copying. But if you have a smartphone, you have those two functions right there at your fingertips. And it makes it much more compact because all you need is just a printer. You don't need this big, huge machine that can copy and scan and all of that stuff. So honestly, I don't think that you need that. Now, if you're printing your curriculum books every year and you're making multiple copies of those curriculum books for each child, then it might be beneficial for you to invest in a printer that has all of those functions. But I don't do that, and so that's not necessary for me. So that really just kind of depends on your own personal situation. But definitely you need a printer. And I would also suggest the best investment that we have made for our homeschool, or one of the best investments, is HP Instant Ink program. It is amazing. So basically you pay for a plan. The cheapest plan is like $3.99 for 50 pages a month. And they automatically send you ink when you're about to run out. You don't ever have to pay for ink again. You just have to pay for this plan. And so we started out printing about 50 pages a month, and that works just fine for us. But since my husband has been working more from home, he's needed more of the printer. And so we had to increase to the 100 pages per month, and it was only $1 more. So $4.99 a month. So we pay $4.99 a month for 100 pages a month, and we get the ink sent to us when we run out. So we've never run out of ink. We've always had what we need, and there's never been a problem with that. So I highly, highly recommend the HP Instant Ink program for any homeschooling mama out there. The other teacher supply that I use on a daily basis is a good hole punch. We've had ours for years. I don't even know where I got it now. We've just had it for such a long time. I think it was back when my husband was in his teaching days. He had a hole punch. But since then he's no longer teaching, and we just keep it at home, and I use it daily because we have our notebooks, which is another essential supply for teachers and for your students. And I shared how I used our notebooks in another video. I'll link that down below as well. But definitely get some good sturdy notebooks for your child for their school curriculum and stuff like that, because I think that that's just the best way to organize their curriculum. Another thing is sheet protectors. I have this huge box of sheet protectors. I like, for our morning time work, I like to save all of our memorization stuff in a sheet protector so that I can just reference back to it easily, and I know that the page is nice and protected, and it's nice to be able to write on it with a dry erase marker if necessary for whatever I need. So sheet protectors are an essential supply in my opinion. And then the last thing is the Evernote app. So I wrote a few posts on this on my blog. I'll link down below for you if you're interested, but the Evernote app is just amazing. If you aren't using Evernote for your homeschool, you need to do that. And I'm not going to go into all the details because this video is already getting pretty long, but I'll share the posts that I wrote about it on how to use Evernote for your homeschool and all of that stuff, getting set up with it, if you're interested in doing that. But seriously, I use Evernote on my phone, the app, for everything daily. And so I highly, recommend that as a teacher supply as well. But that is everything. And if you can believe it, it's less than 30 things, like only 30 items or less of homeschool supplies that we use. So very minimal. Like I've shared before, we live in a small space. I don't want my house being overrun with school supplies. I don't want it to look like a classroom when you come in here, because this is our living space as well. And we homeschool at the kitchen table. So I have a small little cart where I keep all of our supplies. And then I have like one of those plastic 3-drawer organizers in my bedroom where I store all of our extra homeschool supplies. And I recently went through all of that and simplified and pared down to only the bare minimum of what we need and use on a daily basis. And so that's everything. Now, you might need more for your family. You might have a bigger family, or you might have children who use up more materials than my children do. This is really a kind of a subjective thing. Minimalism is not about having a certain amount of items in your home. It's about having only what you need and use on a daily, regular basis. And so as far as our homeschool goes, this is the stuff that we really use and need, and I don't feel like we're lacking. I did mention in my summer day in the life video that I should probably get a laminator, and some of you may think that that is an essential teacher supply. And for you, that's probably true. Yes, it's an essential teacher supply for you. For me, I've been okay without getting a laminator. I don't laminate enough to really make the investment worth it at this point. That may change in the future and I might get one, but for now, a laminator is just not an essential tool for me. So like I said, this is very subjective. These are just the basic things that we use. You could get more or you could get less, but the amount that you keep is where we can control it. And I think a good rule of thumb is 1 box of crayons per child per semester. And then that's, you know, for you, you can add or subtract from there. Maybe you don't use crayons that much or at all, then you don't need to buy crayons. So you get the idea. But I hope that this video helped you. If it did, be sure and hit that subscribe button and turn on the little bell icon so that you can be notified of my latest videos, and I will see you in the next one.